All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Remote Workforce Summit organized by Coolidge Times. Coming up is a panel with a twist. We have three service providers. So we have three service providers and a corporate giant guiding you to a roadmap of technology acquisition. Let's call Sumit Pathak from Automation Anywhere, Ruben Sprite from Nutanix, James Wild from ForcePoint, and Mr. Jayakumar Mohanchandran from Isa Sayadgur. So take it away, the moderator, Mr. Jayakumar.
Thank you, Mitsu. Good afternoon, everyone, for anybody who is joining from the Middle East, and good morning and good evening, according to the respective time zones from the others who are joining from the other part of the world. So this is truly a global summit, is it? So I have, Ruben from Netherlands, and James Wild from UK, and Sumit from India, and I'm sitting here in UAE. So literally, we are working from home, and the Remote Workforce Summit is actually the right title to be. So, very interesting times, and we have a very interesting conversation to be right now. So I'm going to drive a panel right now, which is technology acquisition, which is the IT who is there in the forefront, who is enabling the future of work. So as you all know, I mean, whatever which we have postponed or deemed impossible before was prioritized and executed. Things have changed completely. There has been a paradigm shift everywhere. So the COVID-19 crisis has rapidly shaped up the what and how of digital transformation agenda across corporates. The employee experience has completely came towards the front of the queue, and there is a radical house cleaning that's happening in terms of identifying the gaps or optimizing the cost and redundancies and conflicts. Escalation in terms of automation for cost and safety reasons are something which is happening in all corporates. So we have, with me, as Mitsu introduced, James Wild, who's a sales specialist for EMEA markets for ForcePoint, and he has joined from UK. And Ruben Sprite, he's a senior technologist from Nutanix, the leading cloud provider, and he has joined us from the Netherlands. And Sumit Pathak, as you all know, he's a digital workforce evangelist. Some of you might have attended his session, and even Ruben's in the morning. So he's from Automation Anywhere, and he has joined us from India. So good afternoon and good morning, gentlemen.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, very good. So let me just move on with the questions. So James, I know we have spoken earlier, but at the same time, in terms of the current situations going on, in terms of the priorities being shifted all across, the corporates have been, looking for solutions like, the managed solutions or security as a service, which is one of your biggest offering at the same time. And, companies are looking at ways and means to kind of reduce the workloads and move ahead either to cloud or, some sort of managed service providers. So what do you think would be the biggest takeaway for a corporate or, which we need to consider as a checklist before we approach a service provider in this kind of a situation?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Jay. I think for me, so there's your kind of list of kind of functionality and features that you want from solutions or kind of services delivered from service providers. So that could be around kind of how you're going to collaborate, how you're going to share, how kind of accessible these solutions and services are. Plus, you've got your security controls on top of that. How are people going to authenticate, and how is your data going to be protected in these services? So I think they're definitely part of the checklist you need to go through. But I do think one of the most important things around it is how is a service provider actually going to support you in the adoption and migration to some of these services as well. I think that needs to be seamless. So I think that's definitely something you need to include on that checklist and understand how they're going to support you. And then finally, kind of how you can measure that success as well. Have they actually done a good job? Are they delivering for you what they need to? I think they're my kind of key points on the checklist.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, James. So Ruben, in terms of the Nutanix, I know as the audience all are aware, you have been one of the leading cloud providers within the last couple of years. You're there in the market. But at the same time, in terms of with the current situation, how do you think, or what are the key points which we need to consider when companies who want to kind of migrate the workloads or shift the workloads to cloud? So you might have, seen a lot of RFPs coming in, a lot of requests for proposals or RFIs coming in, where people might be asking for many things, but whether that's something which can be achievable within this current time frame, because everybody wanted to enable the cloud in no matter in time. So
Yep.
what do you think, which are the biggest points which we need to consider in an RFP?
Yeah, it starts with me, the end user, the business consumer, us, and have them in mind, especially with an RFP, focusing on work from home solutions like virtual apps and desktops or desktop as a service. Secondly, I would say start with why. So why this change, and understand the why. And by the way, there's also a great book about that topic as well to read. Third one is make sure the solution architect, that's my background is technology and solution architect and CTO, and make sure that he or she is keeping an overview of the solution, and make sure the requirements of different teams are aligned in the RFP. Don't make the RFP too fluffy or too generic. It must contain some meat on the bone, some details, but not too much. Find solution which is able to provide choice, so no lock-in. And finally, sometimes we, air quote, are so focused on cloud, and cloud doesn't mean public cloud only. Don't be a lemming is what I mentioned in my earlier session. I use a modern data center, on-premise data center with self-service, automation, web scale infrastructure. There are many great benefits and advantages of using a modern data center as well.
Wonderful. I think that vendor lock-in and the other couple of points which you mentioned are really important, because we are completely moving towards that kind of a dimension of multi-cloud and multi-vendor kind of setup, because one size doesn't fit everyone. So that was a brilliant answer. Sumit, in terms of RPA, Automation Anywhere has been there in the market for quite some time, and any of these emerging technologies, like particularly the RPA, has been there in the top list for most of the corporates for quite some time. And probably, what do you think would be the scope which the organizations like, or the customers which they have to consider in this kind of a scenario? I know that automation has been, driving a very major shift in terms of driving the digital transformation as well. So what are those things which should be there as part of the scope of the proposal?
Thank you, Jay, and good afternoon all. It's great to have you guys on this session. Jay, we have got some 3,000 plus customers in Automation Anywhere, and if I can draw upon from that particular learning, what we have seen is that there are usually three types of categories we see in which the would-to-be customers, they reach out to us. One is that trust but verify, where they just want to basically start their automation journey. They've identified one department and few processes, and they want to go with some mission critical process. That's what we're seeing now as well, a bit more because of COVID, where they're looking, solution specific automation because they want to get up this particular curve pretty fast. So that's one way of approaching automation. Second is we call a category of yes we can, where organizations, they are looking at automating as many simple processes as possible and looking for improved productivity, thereby having 50% of their employees that work in with digital colleagues, right? So they're looking for attended automation and digital workers and RPs and the sorts. And then we have this at the other end of this spectrum as someone who's got to have a dream, like thinking out big, looking at how they can create 20% of capacity in using digital workforce, have a bot buddy program where bot for each employees within the organization, right? And that's the actual digital transformation which they want to drive completely, right? So it depends on your appetite, depends on the need at the moment. And so we have seen, depending on the needs within the industry and in the customer, these three categories.
Perfect. Brilliant. So Ruben, in terms of the cloud has been, the biggest enabler for many of the corporates within the last couple of years, as we all know. But, with that coming into the picture is also amount of risk in terms of migrating, the workloads from the on-prem towards the cloud and stuff like that. So how do you see this whole transformation happening, and how can companies or customers stay on the schedule, as per the schedule, or stay on map as per the deployment plan, when we are shifting from the on-prem towards the cloud?
Yeah, easy, easy with a smile. I've been on that side many times, and one of the lessons learned is scope creep is the enemy of a project delivered successfully and on time. So statement of work is super critical. Also make sure that the right people, internal, external, with the skills and also mindset are in the team. And talking about team, create a DevOps and SecOps, security operations teams. These people, these colleagues, my buddies are the black belts, the ninjas in your project team. Talking about project, I would say prepare, but don't make it too complex, and start small. Use small cycles and move fast. It's also very helpful in deployment and schedule implementation. And of course, learn from failures, and don't say, hey, we'll use these failures in another project. No, use these failures in the existing deployment project. I would say less is more applies to organization silos and solution design. So the organization part and the technology solution part. And make sure there is one overview from a solution technology perspective, and someone understands that overview, enterprise architect, solution architect, and also owns that bigger picture. Finally, I also wrote down and thought about what are the 3 elements doing it wrong? So these are all the elements doing it right, but what are the elements doing wrong? And that's onboarding the wrong kind of workload, and especially in public cloud, targeting too complex applications that take forever to onboard in public cloud, and just assume that your existing IT colleagues or your IT ops can manage the cloud service just part-time. And these are the 3 elements not to do, the do wrong elements. So hopefully that gives a complete picture of that.
Wonderful. I think, the process and technology has been there in the place, and, we, off late, we have started talking about people quite a lot in many of the corporates, and people are the ones who actually can break or make a project. So that's absolutely right. And in terms of the mindset, you put it very well. So that's something which is very key for any project to be successful. So I have another question to you, Sumit. There are many technologies that are there in the market, and people are running behind a lot of stuff, and a lot of buzzwords are there. But at the same time, what do you think in this kind of era, we can call it, a COVID era, or, a situation where we are all in. What do you think, which are the major technologies that companies, should be focusing on, or rather they are missing it up at this stage?
Good point here. I think before I get to the technology part, when I spoke with a few of the industry leaders here in EMEA, 3 things which came out very categorically. What they're looking for is the resilience, productivity, and the security, right? And when I say resilience, so I spoke to them, right? Those who are already our customers, that are using the automation, is it helping in the BCP scenario? And profoundly, everyone said that bots, the automation should not be used in BCP situation. You should automate your processes in a way that it provides more resilience to the organization, right? So the idea is, how do you make your organization more resilient, right? How do you make it more productive? So productivity is towards, you should embrace hyper automation, smart automation, any technology which will help with human augmentation, because right now we're in a distributed workforce, right? From resilience perspective, do you have, unattended automation where we can harness the power of cloud? Could we basically start the automation journey faster? I spoke to a few CIOs and they said, could you take away the capex element of getting the technology in, because we want to get the journey start now, but then with capex element, it takes longer. So is there a way we can provide, cloud as a service and take that pressure off them and start the journey? And certainly from the data and AI security perspective, because now we have got staff who are working from home. So what are your InfoSec policies? Is there a way to basically measure and monitor that data is not getting compromised, whether at rest or in motion, right? So those things, and one humorous point, right? Like, as we all are working from home, another technology which I'm seeing, which I speak to my friends around, is robo mops, dishwashers, automated cleaning machines. All of those things are coming forth. because you need them to create the human augmentation as well. So yeah.
No, that's you put it really well. In terms of moving the capex away is something which is there on the top of the list. So as a CIO, I can say that. I mean, with the current set of situation, we all are in. This is one of the topmost priority for any of us to make sure that we cut the fat around and kind of how can we optimize and how can we run the show still. So definitely moving certain things towards the OPEX side would really be helpful. And but at the same time making sure that the automation is coming into the picture, and enabling the workforce and as well as the organization to move to the next level. Wonderful. So, one other question to you, James, more or less similar, but in your industry, I mean, this one such very industry within IT, and security has been, there for, I mean, it's been getting compromised in many of the organizations. But at the same time, the companies are considering managed security or, security as a service and stuff like that all across the globe. So how do you see the trends, or what do you see as the top 3 trends which going forward would be evolving, or which is already evolved, which again, companies like or the customers needs to consider?
I think probably to Sumit's point as well, I think a lot around the kind of automation in the security side of things. So kind of zero ops and or no ops. So having that kind of closed loop where you can understand a risk or some kind of security threat and then actively closing that out. I think that's an important trend going on. I think the kind of zero trust that we're looking at now, so that move maybe for the remote workforce where we can get away from kind of VPN access and then lastly, I think we're probably talking around the kind of SASE type solutions as well, where that secure access service edge where you're really providing a platform where you can have converged access to all of the cloud services. I think that they're kind of key to enabling kind of collaboration across your workforce, but doing it in a secure way as well, particularly in these kind of the times where remote access is completely enhanced at the moment and everybody's doing it.
I think, Sumit put it rightly. I mean, in terms of going forward, we'll have to see everything as a service, so whatever which we talk about, everything will come as a service, and that's how the world is moving towards. One last question to all 3 of you, maybe, I think that would be interesting for the audience as well to understand one of your, favorite case study, maybe within your industry, which you think which is relevant to share at the stage, which will be helpful for our customers.
Yeah.
So maybe you can start with Ruben. Yeah.
Sure. You just mentioned everything as a service. What if this service is able to deliver classic Windows apps and desktops as a service? And that's what a super large university in the Middle East is doing right now, supporting 60,000 students and staff, providing access to classic Windows apps, including Adobe, MATLAB, Autodesk software through Nutanix cloud solution. And the only thing the students and the staff requires is a browser to secure access their apps and data. And they use public cloud resources and also modernized data center on-prem, which gives them like flexibility and scalability while still providing a simple to use and easy solution. So for this customer, for the students, which could be my kids, work isn't the place. Work from a study from everywhere is what they can preach, and also what they can deliver.
Absolutely. So James, what do you think?
For me, certainly what I'm seeing at Forcepoint, so we're working with a lot of customers around protecting their kind of remote workforce and enabling them to connect securely. Our approach is around kind of human-centric security. So really understanding what behaviors are. And I guess the key thing in that is that we don't want to become a blocker in security for kind of collaboration and working. So that ability to understand what people are doing, and when they start exhibiting risky behaviors, that we can kind of put some friction and prevent that bad behavior from occurring. I think that's key, and we're doing that with a number of our customers at the moment.
Wonderful. So Sumit, this last question, what would be your favorite case study?
Yeah. So, Joe, from Automation Anywhere, our view is that customer is the center of everything we do, right? And one of the interesting case study which I came about when I joined the organization is one of our customers. They got 150,000 people working for them, and they've gone with Bot Buddy program where they got bot for each individual, each worker. So that is about actually, in practical sense, creating the human augmentation, right? So all the manual, mundane work is getting done by the robots, whereas humans are able to do it, provide more value to the organization. And this happening at individual level on their machines. So it's amazing to see how the bots are co-working with human bot collaboration with each other.
Perfect. So I think we are done. We are right on time, I believe. Mitsu, you know, if you have time, we can take one or two questions quickly.
Right, Jay, we are out of time, but we can take one quick question. Jay, you decide which question you want to take.
Okay, so Ruben, there is one question, you know, which you think, you know, how will tomorrow's technology workforce be different than today's? So this was a question posed to you just a while back.
I see. Yeah. So how will that change? Well, it starts with like change start with people. Like, for instance, my wife, she works in like healthcare type organization, and 4 or 5 months ago, it was like she couldn't talk about, can I work from home like 1 day a week? Not allowed, doesn't work. And now it's like 4 months in working from home. So when she's returning back in a couple of weeks to like normal-ish, normal air quotes mode, that topic will change for sure. And if she asks, hey, I want to work from home like I did in the past, but not 5 days a week, but 1 day a week, now the organization cannot say, hey, it's not allowed, we cannot do it, because they can do it. Proof is there. So that is changing. So it starts with like culture and mindset change, and people are pushing for that that heavily is what I see. And of course you need technology, but technology is just a second topic. A technology to support a workforce healthy and securely, and with whatever needed. And that's what end user computing is, a larger umbrella term, but that's what end user computing is all about. Includes security, includes identity, includes access to apps, includes unified communications, includes many things. So it starts with me.
Yeah, I think starting with you, starting with me, that's the key word here. I mean, rather than any other skill, you just need to be flexible enough, and you need to have that mindset. So that can take you to manage any such situation. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. I think we are completely out of time. So thank you, for everyone who has attended this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, James. Thank you, Jay, for this fantastic session. And I would now like to just invite all the attendees to the last session of the day. It's a very interesting session. It's a fireside chat with Rio Jordan coming from Shopify Ireland. So I hope you join the next session, and see you all.
See ya. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.